Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets Bling.
And this is Halloween Town, where we are creating all things Halloween. I would like to thank my co-host Monica from Up All Night DIY and our special guest host Annie from Crafting with Indie Annie Jones. You're going to find the links to their channels as well as this playlist with a lot of other creators in my description box below. As I mentioned, I have been to some fabulous garage sales lately. This little kitty cat, I picked her up for 50 cents. And this little kitty cat, who happens to have a broken ear and some hazy eyes, would have gone for a lot of money. It's something special. Sadly, she's broken. She's from Portugal, from the 1970s, and was made by a company called ALPA Ceramic. They are rare, so if you ever see one, grab one, especially if they're in mint condition. And they are adorable. They're really sweet. But since mine is broken, I am going to give her a makeover. And even though these come from the 70s, I am going to turn back the clock a little more and make her a little older than what she is. And I'm going to start by giving her a little bit of a cleanup, and then we need to patch that ear, because I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing with her yet, but I want her to look intact. So I am using some JB Weld Quickwood, which I love this stuff. It works on just about anything. She is ceramic, and I've used it on ceramic before, so I know it will work. You can see there's two very distinct colors here, and I am taking them and I'm kneading them together until there is one uniform color, and then you know it's activated. Then I will repair her little ear. My little kitty's name is Binks. You can call her Binksy. I sculpt the shape of her ear a little larger. That way I can sand it later. The one eye is a little loose, so it comes out relatively easy. And I'm doing this while I'm waiting for her little ear to dry. I might as well do something. There is a ton of glue caked on the back, so I'm going to pull the other eye out and remove the glue from both her little eyes. We'll see if we can take away some of that haze and make them look a little bit nicer than what they are. Binksy's ear is completely dry, and it is extremely hard. This stuff dries extremely hard, so I am at first using a very coarse sanding block to sand it down to the point that I want it to be, so that I can come back with a really, really fine grit and smooth it out. There is no way this is even making a dent onto the ceramic. It is old school ceramic. It is made really well, and I'm not even putting a little scratch on this little girl. So I'm getting her sanded down, because guess what? Next we're gonna paint. We're gonna paint her. She is going to become a Halloween kitty. You can see how nice that ear came out. I could almost just paint her white, pop her eyes back in, and call it a day. But no, Halloween is brewing, people. So she needs to become a black cat. Her name is Binks, for goodness sakes. I am using ink, Waverly chalk paint, to give her her first coat of her new fur color. After her first coat, I will sit her aside and let her dry thoroughly. Here I have little Binksy after the first coat, and I am going to hit her thoroughly a second time, let her dry, and then come back and touch up any areas that I may have missed or didn't coat properly. After the second coat and touch up, I let her dry, and then I come back and I'm going to perform an experiment. I'm like a mad scientist. Halloween's coming. I think I stated that. Well, I am going to do a little test on the thickness of the porcelain and how easy it is to drill. This isn't even a tile bit at this point, but I was able, with some time and patience, able to drill through her. So that gave me confidence to move on to the next step, shall we say. I really, really, really want to give Binksy some real whiskers, so I decided to try to drill some little holes in her face. Now, the mere fact that she has a porcelain, coating, which means she was in a kiln, which made it even harder, it wasn't working out so well. So even when I transferred over to a real tile bit, it did not work. And I tried really hard, but what I was able to do was I was able to drill her eyes out a little bit bigger. And if you know anything about me, you know what's gonna happen there. Now, I am mixing the same two colors of paint that I used in creating Party Jack. I will leave the link for that video in my description box. I'm mixing these two paints together to create a really pretty kind of vintagey orange. And the first thing I'm using that beautiful orange on are her little ears. I am going to paint out the inside, which would be like pink on most cats, depending on the color of your cat. I'm painting it out orange, and I will paint both the insides of my ears this orange, and then I'm going to move on to her teeny tiny cute little nose. I apologize for the camera work here, but I guess I pulled her closer than I thought I did to paint her little nose. But I figured it out and I moved it back, and here is coat 2 on her cute little nose. And now we're going to start her little cute mouth, her little mew, mew, mew. I don't know if she's more of a meow or a mew. So I'm painting in her mouth, and I'm going to give her a cute little lip too. I kind of have to go with what the cat is already. There's definitely indentations where her mouth and her little lip are located, so I have to follow that. I can't go outside the lines. I like to draw outside the lines on most things. I don't play within the box, but here I gotta follow the lines. So I'm gonna just touch up her little nose as we go and finish her sweet little lips. Binksy. Then we'll let her dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back in with some more detailing. Now it's whisker time. Since I wasn't able to give her physical whiskers, I have to give her painted whiskers. She said she's cool with that. She said, I'm a cool cat. I am using plaster, that's the color, chalk paint from Waverly. This is one of my favorite colors because it is kind of an off-white. It's not a bright white, and yet you feel like you're painting white. Now I'm giving her some freckles because she needs some freckles. She's so sweet. And now whiskers for her other side and a few freckles. And then we're going to give her kitty claws. Look how much she's changed from that white cat with those hazy green colored weird eyes to this cute little black Halloween kitty. I'm just giving her a little bit of detail around her brow, kind of a vintage flair. If you see anything that is remotely appealing to you but broken, just know you can fix it. I mean, it can be fixed. It really, almost anything can be used. And keep in mind, broken items are always cheaper. And especially with a little black cat, she's gonna fit into my Halloween decor so well. So just think about it and keep your eyes open when you're out there thrifting or garage sailing. A few more details, and then we are going to seal all our hard work in with some emoji à pajot. Some Mod Podge. Bust it out. Here we go. This is a matte, by the way, a matte Mod Podge, because I don't want her to have a high gloss. I want her to look aged. I want her to look old. I want her to look vintage. This is going to be a lot more muted of a sheen than what she was when I originally bought her. So I'm just going to coat her entire little body with Mod Podge. Podge. While my Mod Podge is drying, I am dealing with her little eyes. A lot of the paint came off with the glue, and the rest of it I'm just gently peeling away because I'm going to paint her eyes a different color. And once I get all of the old paint off, I clean them up, and then I'm going to start with, of course, the black center of her eye. I am going to give her a cat eye. So I am just painting on a straight line right down the center. It'll bulge out a little bit on either side, but it's basically just a straight black line. This is the hazy eye, by the way, and it is still hazy because of age. Her little eyes are old. I mean, Binksy is 50 years old, so it is what it is. I want her to have yellow eyes, so I'm using a yellow ochre. This is a folk art matte paint from Plaid, It is also the same yellow that I incorporated with the orange earlier to make Binksy's little ears and so forth. And I am painting this like I would a flower. I am starting in the middle and I am just little strokes to the exterior of her little eyes. And that way you're gonna get the look of a real iris. Just straight out, taking your time with a very fine brush. And I will go over it in a couple of places to make it darker in areas and let some of it be light, so something can shine through, if you know what I mean. And now for some accessories. I am using a Christmas cone, styrofoam cone, to make Binksy a hat. I trace a line around the bottom where I am going to cut my little cone. I use my knife, my Sharpie knife, to make little indentations all the way around my line, and then I will cut through the middle. If I didn't mention it before, I will mention it now. Little Binksy's going to a party. It's actually a surprise party for her birthday. I will be using this foam sheet that's 5 millimeters thick to make the bottom of her hat. I just took an old lid from a spray can and I am tracing it to make the bottom. Then we'll cut it out. I'll bet you thought I was going to use the other end of that cone, didn't you? Well, surprise, I am making her a top hat. She is going to be wearing this little number, so I need to cut a hole in the bottom of the styrofoam and a hole in the bottom of the foam. And I am going to be making a cute little trim to go around the bottom of the little top hat with this crepe paper. Such a pretty color. I hot glued both these foam pieces together with a very low setting on my glue gun, and now I am painting them ink chalk paint by Waverly. I will give it a couple coats to make sure it is thoroughly covered. Once dry, I will decorate with a feather, some cute images, and that crepe paper. Kitty needs a collar, so I am going to be using 4 different colors of crepe paper to make that happen. I'm using 3-in-1 glue to stagger the glue line on my crepe paper. So I'm going to line them up and it will be staggered. As you will see here, I take the gold and I will sit it on top of the orange, offset just a little bit, so you're going to see a little tiny bit of the orange showing. Then I will do the same with the black and that beautiful blue color that we used on Binksy's little top hat. My good friend Monica from Up All Night DIY does some great embellishments as well, and she has a great video on it, so you might want to check that out. I'll leave the link in my description box. Once I have the length I need, I fold the edge over just a little bit so you don't see any of my glue marks, and then I'm going to use some thread to sew it all together and create pleats. After it's complete, I will be gluing it with 3-in-1 glue onto Binksy's neck, and then I'm going to add one of these little bells, but not like that. I am going to make it look old. I'm going to throw it into my rusting bucket. I will leave a link in the description box to show you some real and faux rusting techniques. Check that video out. I'll be tying the little bell on, once rusted, with some of this jute. I love to embellish with jute. These are some of my extra images that I created for Party Jack, but they're too big for Binksy, so I scaled them down and made some smaller versions, since I want the two to coordinate, to go on my little Jinxie, on her little top hat and on her collar. I will back these 2 images with cardboard for more stability, and I had a little tiny bit extra of that collar material I used with the crepe paper. So I'm going to fringe it, roll it up, glue it, and add it to her little top hat as well. I've had this cute little sign for years and years. She's a little beat up, but I'm going to put it on a stand. I'm actually going to use this little frame. I'm going to paint different parts of it, add some glitter, and glue this on the back. I'm also going to add some of that ruffled crepe paper on there for a little bit of fun. I also picked up at that really amazing garage sale this little box for $1. How cute is that? I'm going to take off the little trim at the bottom. I'm going to touch up the black paint just where the glue was, and then I'm going to take some of the orange paint that I mixed earlier, and I'm going to add some dots on top of the existing orange, because this orange is totally different than what I'm using on Banksy, and it just doesn't look right. This cute little box is going to act as a gift box for what I'm going to make next. It will also get embellished with a little bit of jute and a gift tag. Banksy's gift is going to be a ball of yarn, but not just any ordinary ball of yarn. Banksy is going to get a pumpkin-shaped ball of yarn. And I am just taking a 1-inch styrofoam ball and cutting it down and sculpting it into a pumpkin shape, a pumpkin-like shape. It just has to be a general shape with the little grooves in it. A ball with grooves, that's what I'm shaping here. So once I get the little ball done, I'm going to take my paintbrush and shove it right smack dab through the middle of my little pumpkin, and then I'm going to paint it that same orange that I've been using throughout this whole project. Now that it's dry, I can take it off the paintbrush and make it start looking like a ball of yarn. That hole in the middle was there for a purpose, not just to hold it while I painted it. As you can see, it's there for me to thread my yarn through. If I had just taken my pumpkin shape without the hole and wound it round and round and round, I would have lost the definition in my pumpkin. And I really want this to look like a little yarn pumpkin when it's all said and done. So I am taking my plastic yarn needle and I am using this beautiful orange yarn to make my pumpkin. When I am finished with the orange yarn and my little pumpkin is totally covered, I will use that lighter green yarn to knot it in many places to form a stem. And then I will also leave some of that pretty yarn just as is to act as a vine. My character is usually set on a pedestal, but this time around I'm putting my kitty cat on a rug. I will be using some fabric that might look familiar to you. I'll leave that link for that video in the description box. And I will be using this Dollar Tree canvas. I will be cutting my fabric just a little bit larger than my canvas. Once I have my fabric cut, I will use Mod Podge, matte Mod Podge, to adhere it to my canvas. I flip it over, trim my fabric, and Mod Podge the back as well. I am making sure all the sides are extremely tight. I don't want this looking sloppy. And by taking extra time and care on the corners, I can make sure there will be no wrinkles, no folds, and my corners will come to a nice crisp point. It's almost like wrapping a very gorgeous Christmas present. I bring both sides together to that point. I use my burnishing tool to force them together to make a nice seam, and then I am going to trim them and Mod Podge them with a little fold to the back of the canvas. A rug just isn't a rug without some fringe, so I need to make sure I can get some fringe on my little area rug. I am drilling holes by just eyeballing it. I did not measure this. I just went from end to end, and then I went in the middle of those two ends, and then so forth and so on, the middle of those two ends and the middle of those two ends, and I am drilling little holes to accommodate my fringe. My fringe will be embroidery floss. I'm going to use embroidery floss to make the little tassely fringes on either side of my rug. I will also be adding this beautiful little detail trim over the top of my drill holes. All my details and embellishments are complete, so let's meet Binks. Here's how she started life 50 years ago, and here's what she's going to look like from here on out. You can see her beautiful eyes and that the one is still hazy. Once again, she's old. I'm very happy with her painted details and her ruffled collar and her name tag and her little bell so you can hear her coming. Let's take a really good look at the hat. On her tail, not on her head. She's a unique kitty. Take a look at all the detailing on her little hat. She can even wear it on her head, she says, if she wishes and wants to be proper. And how about her gift box? the extra detailing, the paper inside, and her gift, that cute little pumpkin yarn ball, and her rug to lay on. All comfy and cozy on those cold nights that are to come. Oh, that's right, I almost forgot. Binksy has a party trick just like Party Jack. Her eyes light up. Look how beautiful she looks, all glowing. She's so excited for the party, and she's so glad you came to meet her. I can almost hear her purr. Oh, that's my cat, sorry. Thanks again to Monica and Annie for joining me in Halloween Town. All things Halloween. You're going to find the links to their channels and this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, share it with your family and friends, and anyone that likes vintage, Halloween, or just fun decor. You can follow me on Instagram, and don't forget to check out my shop on Etsy. Leave me a comment. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support my channel. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.